Hello, Serge here from the back porch. Clipboard, got a question. And this one comes from Michael. His first part of his email is hamr62. And so Michael, his question is, driver length Serge. I hit my 3-wood very consistent off the turf and the tee. The driver, not so much. Would I benefit with the driver shaft closer to the length of the 3-wood? Thanks. Absolutely. Normally by today's standards, if you happen to have a driver that standard length today is at 45 to 46 inches, 3-woods are usually only about 42 and a half, 43. And so at that point, what you would have is you'd have that as much as possibly 2 inches between your driver and 3-wood. Now this is my driver and this is my 3-wood. If I put them basically side by side here, you can see I have only about an inch difference. But the true way to measure them is to put them this way, and you measure by the very top of the club, and you can see that there's just about an inch or so in there. The ultimately best way to do it is to get a ruler. This was made by a company years ago called Dynacraft. It's a ruler that was specifically designed to measure clubs. And in this right here, you can see that this is the bottom, and it says over here, it has like junior length, 40 and a half, 41, 42, and this is where some fitters use these where you stand up and they might measure you by your fingertips. They make sure your shoulders are level, or as level as you can get it, because after 45 years of playing golf or whatever it is, my right shoulder is still always lower no matter how many times I visit the chiropractor. And they measure you, they might either measure your fingertips or they might measure you this way, and some Lynn Griffin likes to measure you to the very top of your hand, right in your wrist over here. And so depending on what charts they use to figure out their measurements, they'll do it that way. But then after that, we have an actual ruler right here. And so the way that Lynn would measure your clubs, he would just lay the club flat on the ground. I'll do it this way here, and put this right up underneath the shaft, the hosel right there, touching up against the head, and then you come right here and measure it. All right. And right now, this driver is exactly sitting on 43 inches. All right, so I'm swinging way short because, as I say, most standard drivers today are 45 inches. All right, DJ swings about 44 and a half. But remember, I'm 5'9", if I still am 5'9", and he's 6'3". But I also have the same arm length as him, my height of 35 inches. So I swing shorter clubs so my arms can straighten out at impact. Now we're going to take my 3-wood. We're going to measure it the exact same way. Just lay the club down flat on the ground where it's sitting, where it's soled in the center of the club. Put the ruler up against it, and the driver is sitting dead on 42. So my driver to 3-wood is only 1 inch difference. And so I talked to Lynn about that the other day, and he was very big about the fact that about an inch should be the most on that he likes to see in the difference between your driver and your 3-wood, and maybe make your driver even closer if you need to. In fact, the other day I was talking to Lynn that I said, you know, I feel so good that my 3-wood, my arms straighten out perfectly, but with this driver, even with that extra inch, I said, I just sometimes feel like I get jammed, especially because the ball's teed up, and so versus the 3-woods on the ground most of the time. And even if I tee a 3-wood up a little bit, I always have that really good feeling of the arms getting totally extended, where I don't quite have that same feeling with the driver. And I gave him the challenge. I said, Lynn, I want you to start thinking about it. Can you make me a driver the same length as my 3-wood and get the shaft to load and kick equally as the way it's supposed to, and that I'll still have my driver length distance-wise versus the 3-wood? Because again, this 3-wood, I call it bionic, and it's been really good for me. And off a tee, it's scary how good I hit it and how far I hit it because of the height I get in the carry, and I can hit it low too when I want. But the key is, I think that ultimately, if I get that feeling of my arms straightening out exactly like they do with my 3-wood with a driver, and Lynn can get all of those statics, you know, those angles correctly and the right load and kick, I really think I can do it. But remember, in anything we do, there's always a law of diminishing returns. At some point, more is not necessarily better, and less is not necessarily better. Which means at some point, I could make this shaft. It gets to the same length as my 3-wood, but with the weights involved and everything else, I just can't accelerate it enough to really make a difference in distance that might not work. But I gave him the job. I told him to go ahead and try to figure it out, and we'll probably build a club if he thinks he can do it and see what happens. But I would say that that Michael, you need to, if you have more than an inch difference between your driver and 3-wood, just start choking up on your driver and see what kind of improvements you get, and measure it out so that you can figure out that you know, let me try. If say you got 2.5 inches difference, try 1.5 inches, and then maybe even 2 inches, and find a point where you feel that you swing the club with control, with good acceleration and speed and solidness of contact, and then see the results. And you should be hitting it more solid and straight. You find an optimum place that'll seem to work for you. Then after that, you can either play choking it up that much, or go out and get the grip taken off, cut it off, and re-grip it. And cutting off the butt end does not change the shaft loading kick significantly to cause any problems. But you know, if you don't have any problem choking up, then you don't bother cutting it off. And so you can make that choice. Talk to a club fitter, certified club fitter, and see if they can help you there. Okay? Well, that's it for today from the Surge on checking out your driver and 3-wood. When you're hitting one good and the other one poor, one of a couple things we can do to search it out and see if we can't find an answer as to how to get hitting them both correctly. All right? Well, that's it from today, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.